Let's loom knit a hexagon today here on GoodKnit Kisses. This easy loom knit hexagon features a garter strip edge, an accent stripe, and a decreased center. Stitch a bunch of them together in rows to make a scarf or blanket, or use it at the end of a bolster or a bag. This project is worked in the round on an even number of pegs, and it's originally inspired by our granny round that you may have seen on this channel 15 years ago. I have since improved this design and we've made 3 different sizes. So we're going to give you instructions for one of those sizes today, and you can find all the links to our written out pattern down below in the video description. Grab your tools and let's begin. Welcome to GoodKnit Kisses. We're all about helping you stitch your love and love your stitches. All right, let's go over some basic information. You're going to need your materials. Go click down in the video description below for a link to our written blog. And if you want to get it ad-free, we do have PDFs available for a discount on our website, or you can go to our Ravelry and Etsy stores. There'll be a link inside that blog. We are working with 1 strand of bulky 5-weight yarn. All the details of that yarn is on the website. For contrast A, I'm using this sage green, and then for my accent and contrast B, I'm using a dark green, or dark gray. So I'm doing the opposite of what you see here. That way you can see it on camera a little bit better. We're also working with our flexi looms. This is a flexible loom if you haven't seen one before, and it works so much better than the rigid loom. Now, when I originally did this pattern years and years ago, it's been 15 years, the rigid loom just doesn't pull the stitches in as much, and so I can do a lot more shaping with the flexi loom. If you have the regular gauge loom that's orange looking like this, your sizes won't come out quite right. I recommend the chunky, but you can do the other one and they just won't be exactly the same size. You're going to work with 36 pegs, and we'll do that on camera today. 36 pegs for our small, which is 4.5 inches, and it's 14.25 centimeters or inches in circumference. The medium is going to be 6 inches, and it's about 16.5 inches around. And then our large is 7 inches, and that is going to be 22.5 inches around. So the loom you'll need is a 60 peg for this one here. You're going to need a 48 peg for the medium and 36 pegs for the small. You're also going to need at least 1 stitch marker. And if you want to keep up with your decreases, especially if you have the larger sizes, you might find it convenient to have a total of 6 stitch markers, so 5 extra besides your first one. You're going to wait and put those on in a few rows, so you don't need at the beginning, just the one. And then of course your tapestry needle, you're going to need a crochet hook for the chain cast on, and then your loom hook and some scissors. So that's all you need. So grab your supplies and we will begin. All right, go ahead and assemble your loom. And if you notice, I have put together 3 links here for my beginning. I've got 3 links in the same color, and then I've got my stitch marker. It's really just covering up both of these stitches, but I'm going to start with the one on the very far end here. So I'm going to have 3 of the same color, then the dark, and then I'm going to do 3 of the light, 3 of the dark, 3 of the light. And if you have these little straight pieces, I recommend using as many round as you have, but put maybe 1 straight piece in between here, you know, so you can just kind of spread them out. Having too many of these little straight links that's flat on this end will be harder, because we're going to be taking these links out as we get smaller, and it's going to be easier when you have the round ones, or as many as possible. So if you're working with the small size, you're going to need 3 links of each color in each section. So there's 6 sections. And if you're doing the medium, you're going to have 4 links. And if you're going to do the large, you're going to have 5 links. Now you could make this larger if you like, and then you could work with 6 links, and then you'd have 72 all around, and you'll kind of get the gist of how you'll be able to do that if you want to resize this for something else. I'm only going to handle 3 sizes on the pattern, but you could use this to help you. So you're going to go ahead and start casting on. So I know it took forever to get all that information, but now we're going to cast on. And we're going to, instead of a slip knot, I don't want a slip knot on the edge of my round or my hexagon, because it's got that extra little bump on it, and I don't like that. So I'm going to show you how to do a chain cast on without that extra slip knot, and I don't have a starter peg. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a loop and have a tail. If you want to sew your pieces together later and you want to have a really long tail right here, you can totally do that now. Otherwise, just stick it through a loop. Okay, we're just going to pretend. So we're going to go around in between our first and second peg, and I'm going to grab the long strand here, not the short one. We're going to wrap around it, and then I just kind of put my thumb on the long tail. I'm going to pull through, and now I've got one stitch casted on. Okay, I've gone around the one, and now my loop is to the back here, and we're going to go through and wrap around and pull through. So this 2-stitch look is on the inside, and the outside is going to have one looking stitch back here. So we're going to keep doing the chain, go all the way around, wrap it, and pull through. And if you need a slower video on the chain cast on, I've got plenty on my channel, and you're welcome to go grab that video and come back. So I'm going to keep going around, and just pause your video as you need. You can also do this with your fingers if you like. There's so many different ways people like to do it. But I am starting in the round, working clockwise if you're right-handed, counterclockwise if you're left-handed. And we do have a right and left-handed video for you, so click down on the video description below. Okay, pause your video as you need, and I will meet you back up at the last peg and show you how to connect everything. Oh, if you drop this by accident, let's say you accidentally drop this and it pops back, you can just kind of keep pulling it until you can get that loop back on, and just go around again and pull through. If you're wondering what crochet hook I'm using, this is a 9mm. It just works and I like it. All right, so this is the last peg here, and normally you would just place it on here, but I like to join between my last and my first peg so I get that extra little loop back there. So we're going to go ahead and pull through another loop. So we've got that, and now I'm just going to place it on top of my first peg. I'm going to go ahead and put my yarn tail on the inside, and then we're just going to place that loop on the first peg. All right, now I'm going to turn this around so we can see the whole thing. Okay, we're going to take our working yarn, come behind that peg. Actually, oh, let me do that right here. Okay, now I'm in between the last peg and the first peg. All right, now we can start working this first round. Okay, so just a reminder, on the written pattern, you're going to see a set of numbers. You're going to have the first number, which is the small size. And for this one, you saw the cast on said 36. And then in parentheses, you see a second number. It says 48. That's for the medium, and 60 for the large. So if you're not used to reading those patterns, that's what that means. So every time you approach directions that have a number and then parentheses and 2 other numbers, you're looking for which size you're going to do. So if you need to work on the medium, you're looking for the first number in the parentheses. That's what you do. So we're going to come to our pattern. We've already done our cast on, and this is the same for all sizes here. We're going to U-wrap knit all of our pegs. So we're just going to come around this peg here, number 1, and we're going to lift up and over both stitches, both loops. So that's it. We're knitting 1 peg, and then we're going to knit the second peg, and we're going to continue all the way around. This one works real fast when it's in my lap, and a little awkward when I do it on camera on a table far out in front of me. But go ahead and knit around. Okay, pause your video, and when we come back, we're actually going to change colors. All right, so if you come back before me, be sure and grab your second yarn. All right, pause your video. I will see you there. All right, you've done round 1. Way to go. We're going to start round 2, and you need to do the same type of stitch, but with contrast. Okay, so your second color, you're going to just place a tail on the inside, just loosely, and knit that first stitch. There's no need to put a slip knot on. Okay, if you need more room, just pull on that and go ahead and knit all the rest of these stitches, making sure to leave this color A just at the back or over to the side. And when you come all the way around, you're gonna have to move it out of the way. All right, so keep going. Go ahead and knit all stitches in your second color. All right, pause your video. I'll meet you back up for the last stitch. Okay, so we've got our last stitch. I want to make sure and move that out of the way, that color A out of the way. That last stitch will be a little loose because we've got our loose yarn back in the back. You can go ahead and pull it tighter, that's fine. And now we're just going to keep going. We're going to do round 3, which is purl all. And then we're going to cut the tail when we're done with this round. All right, so go ahead and purl. And this first stitch is going to be a little loose because of that tail back there. So you can kind of pull on that a little bit, pull on this one, and that should even out your stitch a little bit. And then you can keep going. Now, I kind of like to do a 2 for 1. So round 4 is going to be another round knitting with A. So you can go ahead and purl, you know, one section at a time, move on to the next section, and then you can actually knit with your contrast A for round 4 if you like. So make sure and work with this color first. So I'm going to do several stitches here on camera with you if you want to try this. And you just follow it around the loom. Just don't get ahead of yourself. Okay, so I'm going to go one more and go into the next set of stitches. So 6 stitches here on this one. Yours may be the medium or large, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to grab my contrast A because round 4 is going to be U-wrap knit all stitches as well. So we're going to knit, or I say as well. We are purling, but on round 3, but with A, we're going to knit. So there's only one purl round. Everybody heed a sigh of collective relief because not everybody likes to purl. So here I've done several stitches, knitting, and here's my 6th stitch. Don't get ahead of yourself with this color. Just drop it when you get to the next section, and then we're going to work with our contrast B and continue with our purling. Okay, all right, so go ahead and do purl 1 round with contrast B, and then you're going to knit 1 round with contrast A. All right, pause your video and I will meet you back up for the decrease rounds. See you soon. Okay, so I've ended round 4 with this last stitch, and I went ahead and cut from round 3 my contrast color. So this accent color is already cut now. So you're gonna have 2 tails just hanging here for that color, and then you've got your beginning tail. So the next tail you have will be in the very middle, so there's no more cutting yarns or anything. All right, so we're gonna begin our decrease round. This is round 5. And everybody starts off with no stitch markers on there. I put a few. I'm going to show you this now. So I've got my first stitch marker on here, and this is going to be helpful, especially for the larger sizes. But go ahead and place a stitch marker. Just pick it up and place it at the beginning of each of these sections of colors. So just place that on there, go all the way around, put the next one on, and you'll see how this works. It's best noticed on the next rounds after this first time we do a decrease round. It's not as evident, but next time you come to decreases on every other round where we have a decrease, you'll know exactly where to knit to. So it'll be a lot more intuitive on this pattern. Okay, so you don't have to look at the pattern as much. All right. So this first one, we're going to decrease. Every time we decrease, we're taking the second stitch and moving it on the first stitch. So you can pick this stitch up, move it on to the first peg and knit your stitch, or you can go ahead and go behind peg 1, knit peg 2, and move it onto peg 1, especially if you're tight, and you'll see why later on. So we're going to knit that peg over, and now we've decreased 1. Now we're going to knit 4 stitches. So all the rest of these 4 stitches up to our marker, and the other patterns you're going to go all the way down to the end too. So you're going to knit 4 on the small, or 6 on the medium and 8 on the large. So we're going to knit and move them over, and we'll be taking links off as we go. And we can also tighten these stitches up. So we're going to knit all the way to the markers. Okay, and once you've done that, go ahead and tighten up your stitches. So I just start at the first one, go to the second. We're going to pull any slack here. I want to make sure I don't pull it too tight, but I don't want any slack. We don't want these laddered yarns in between to be too big, because when we make our hexagon, it'll be nice and pretty and consistent with no holes in it, right? So, all right, we're ready for our next decrease. So we're going to knit this second peg. So you're skipping behind the empty peg and the first peg, going to the second peg, moving it over to the first, knitting it off. Okay, and then once you do that, you're going to need to pick it up and the stitch marker and move it. So I'm going to move it over here. Okay, these peg colors are going to kind of become irrelevant later on, so you're going to be watching for the stitch marker. So now we have this whole empty link. We're going to take that off. So we're moving 2 pegs and we're making our loom smaller. This is why we need these rounded links. So you may want to tighten up this last stitch again before the decrease, and then that one, and then move on. So that's a decrease. Now I'm doing the same amount of stitches. In this case, I'm knitting 4 up until that stitch marker. Again, the medium is 6 stitches and the large is 8. And you're just going to repeat this all the way around the loom. So you take off the links when you've got 2 empty pegs. You just make a decision as to where you want to move those, and you'll see this here in a moment. So we're going to knit the second peg, move it over to the first, knit off. Okay, we can leave it right where it is, and now we're going to knit 4. And you can see I have 4 left in here. So you're going to knit to the end, or knit up until that stitch marker for your size. Move it over, tighten, knit the peg, pick it up, move it over, tighten, knit the next, pick it up, move it over, tighten that up. And we'll still have to tighten these again. So once I move them over, I'm going to go ahead and tighten them or pull that slack up. Okay, and now I'm going to do another decrease, so we're going to have an empty link. So I'm going to go to this next one, knit that stitch and move it over, and knit off. And I'm going to need to pick up my stitch marker and move it. So we're picking that up, moving it over. It's going to be loose. That's okay. Go ahead and take that link off. Okay. There we go. And now we're going to go ahead and tighten that up again. And now we're going to knit to the next stitch marker. So that's it. You're going to continue with these decreases until you reach the end of that round. Okay. I'm doing this whole round with you. Oh, why did I decrease that? Well, if you accidentally do it, here's an undo. All right, here we go. I was just mindlessly talking and knitting and not paying attention. So there we go. I'm just gonna not edit this out. Put that back on. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, so, oh, I don't know what I was saying. That's okay. But all the other rounds are going to be like this. It's just going to get smaller every time. So now I'm going to do my decrease. Here we go. So knit that off. That one stays, so that means this next time you have one, that's going to move. And you're going to have 6 pegs less each round, okay? That means 3 links every round that we have a decrease. So I figure I'll show you the decreases this round and do the whole thing. And then the next ones, I'll just show you the first few pieces, and we won't do the entire round together. All right, here we go. So now we're all the way down here. Let's go ahead and tighten up. It's amazing how much extra slack is in there. All right, so now we're going to do our last decrease of the round. Move it over, knit. We need to move it to our other link and take the old one off, the empty one. Okay, look, see, we got 3 links over here. Snap that back on. There you go. Pull our slack and knit to the end of the round. Okay, so I hope you paused your video where you needed it. Of course, you've got the, you know, the gear button. You can speed this up or slow it down or rewind, whatever you need. All right, so we're on to round 6. This is U-wrap knit around. So every stitch you're just going to knit. If you skip this part, it will decrease too fast and it will not be a flat object that you make. So if you pull yours off the loom and you feel like you made like a flower or something, it's not sitting flat, that's because you may have skipped this round, okay? So this part's very important. So go ahead and knit all the stitches, pause your video, and I'll meet you back for the next decrease round. See you in a minute. Round 7, we're going to decrease again, same way. Begin by decreasing that first stitch, moving the second peg to the first, and knitting over, and then knit to the end right before the stitch marker. So knit all stitches to the stitch marker. In my case, I'm knitting 3, and for the other sizes, you're going to knit 5 or 7. Okay, go ahead and tighten up your stitches as you go. Okay, and now we're going to decrease. So in this case, I'm going to move this back 1 stitch here. Well, forward, I guess you'd say. Move it to this peg here, and then I'm going to take off this darker link. There we go. Go ahead and close that gap again. Get the slack and knit to that next stitch marker. See how the stitch markers just make it so much easier to really see, especially if you are playing with the different colors of when you pull those links off. So otherwise you'd have to come back and go, okay, I did a decrease, 1, 2, 3, and it just takes longer. So this is actually much faster once you have the stitch markers. All right, doing my decrease, and then we knit to that next stitch marker and pull our slack in as we go. So I think you got this one. I hope you do. I hope it's helpful. If you need more help on moving things, obviously, you can go to that row before where I show moving everything. Okay, here's another one. We'll take this link off together, and then y'all can finish this round yourself. So we're going to decrease this next stitch. I'm right at my stitch marker. It's pushed to the back, but it's there. So knit that stitch, move it over, knit, and then you can see that I need to pull off this darker link. So I'm going to pick that up. I'm going to pull up my stitch marker, place it, and go ahead and take off that link. And I just keep track of it over here. Once I finish a round, I just kind of snap them together, and I can kind of follow where I am by what I've removed. All right, and knit to the end before that stitch marker. All right, pause your video, and I will meet you for the next decrease round. Make sure that after you work this decrease round, you're going to work round 8 and you wrap knit all the way around as well. All right, pause your video. I'll see you there. All right, so I'm down here. You can see my loom is less flexible. I've got some of these straight pieces on here, so you can see what that looks like. Mine almost looks like a triangle. So I'm ready for my next decrease round. This is round 9, and we're knitting, we're doing our decrease, and then we're knitting 2 on this small size, 4 for the medium, and 6 for the large. Go ahead and decrease that stitch and knit until your marker. Okay. And then we're going to decrease this next stitch. Okay. And then you're going to move it to your marker. Now, I made my loom this way on purpose so you can see what to do if you're like, I really want to get rid of some of these straight ones. Kristen had some round ones and it looked better. So you could go ahead and move some of your stitches back to this one that's round instead of moving it over to this one that has that straight piece on it. So I'm going to go ahead and move my stitch marker. Okay. It might mess up my colors from yours, but that's okay. I really just want to show you, how you can get rid of that. So I'm just going to hold on to that stitch and take off this one that has the straight piece. And then I can put it on this link and it's nice and rounded, okay? Because this is going to get smaller, right? It's still manageable, but all of the looms eventually are going to get as small as this, okay? Go ahead and get all your slack. All right, and now we're going to knit until the next stitch marker, 2 in my case. So every loom, every size is going to get down to 1 stitch right after here. So we're going to have a decrease, and we'll have knit 1, and then you'll get to the point that will be in a couple of rounds, but all of them will need this round. So if you're like, what do I do when I have to do the knit 2 or the knit 1? You'll see those even if you have the smaller size. I'm just not going to cover all the rounds for you on the other, for the larger size. I don't know if that was clear as mud, but we're not going back now. All right, so decrease your stitch, knit over. I'm going to leave that decrease here. Go ahead and knit the next stitch, move over, knit the next stitch and move over. Okay. Pull out any slack. All right, now I've got 2 of these straight ones in a row, so either one is fine to get rid of. Definitely want to get rid of one of them. Go ahead and make that decrease. Move it over, knit it, and then now I'm just going to move the stitch marker over, take this piece out, because this one's nice and loose. Like I can make this loop really big and then let go of it. It's a lot easier to remove this one. All right, go ahead and connect that back, place that and tighten it up. There we go. And then knit to the next stitch marker. And decrease. That one stays where it is. Knit the next and move it. next move that. And then now we've got another with the straights here. So we're going to do the decrease. And pick it up. Move our stitch marker, take off this link. And go ahead and join together, and then you can pull your slack. Make sure it clicks. Okay, last 2 stitches for me. Knit to the end for yourself. Okay, so I did that whole round with you. We're going to knit all the way around one more time. Pause your video. I'll come back for the next decrease. See you soon. Okay, so I'm on round 11 for my smaller size, and this is the last decrease round that I do, and I'll have one more knit round before we're finished. Now, if you have the other 2 sizes, for the next size up, you're going to have a few more rounds here and then a few more for the larger size. So, but when you get to this point, we have 18 stitches. If you want to come back to this point in the video, you can see where to go. So we are now beginning at this round. So again, we're going to decrease. Okay. And then we're going to knit 1. And move that over, tighten that up, and then now we're going to decrease again. And this time, when you're on your last round of decreasing, after you knit that off, and you want to move it over, this time you can just take off your stitch marker. So I'm taking that off. I know I already did this decrease. Now we can remove the peg, or I'm sorry, the link with 2 pegs on it. Go ahead and put that back together. Okay, it's even smaller. It's very critical that you pull out any slack that you have here. All right, now we've decreased, remember, so you're gonna knit to the next stitch marker. And now we're at the stitch marker, we're going to decrease and remove that stitch marker. We don't need that anymore. And then we're going to knit the next stitch and move it. Okay. We're about to free up another link, and it's one of those straight ones, so I know I want to move it back to here. So knit the second one, move it to the first, decrease, pick it up, take off my stitch marker, and put it on that peg. We're going to take off the link. And let's show you the ladder yarns. These yarns in between stitches are the ladders, so you want to make sure that they're not really long here. So that's why we want to pull those together so it's a nice, pretty, consistent design. So pull on those to remove the slack. Okay, knit to that stitch marker. Okay, got one more to remove. Gonna knit this one, or decrease. Remove your stitch marker. Knit and move. Okay, and then our last decrease. All right, pick that up, and we're going to move it back this way again because we got a rounded one and we want to get rid of this straight piece. So take that off. And now I should only have rounded pieces on here, so it should fit together nicely. Look at that. Look how tiny that is. So you're left with 12 stitches. So Go ahead and tighten this up. So all of the sizes are going to end at this point. They're going to look exactly the same. Every size is going to have 12 stitches. Okay, that's the entire thing. So now we need to knit that last stitch here, and then one more round, and then we'll pull it off the loom. So go ahead and knit around one last time. On this pattern, it's going to be round 12. For the medium, it'll be at round 16. And for the large, it'll be at round, let's see, 20. Okay. All right. So go ahead and knit that. Pause your video, come back. I'll show you how to take this off. All right. All that's left to do is we're going to go around our loom about 3/4 of the way around, or you can go the whole way. And I'm just going to cut a tail. It's going to be about 9 inches when you do it like that, once we get everything off of the loom. And go ahead and put it underneath the first peg, pull through that whole thing, and then you can take that right off the loom. You can also use your tapestry needle to do this. I prefer the loom tool. It's just much faster. All right, so go ahead and go around all your stitches and pause your video. I'll meet you at the last one. See you in a moment. All right, we're on our last stitch. All right, pull that through, and depending upon the size of yours, you might like to pull it from the bottom. I'm just going to push it up through the top, and you can flatten it out and get the satisfying pulling of this middle one to drawstring, this middle thread here. And now you have your hexagon. Now it's a little loose. It can be a little loose where these accent pieces are, so you can pull on those stitches and then pull it right back in. You saw how that kind of straightened that up and tidied that up. And then this piece here can be a little bit tidied as well. So we're going to do that on camera here. Go ahead for your center piece here, this very center strand. Grab your needle, just a wide-eyed tapestry needle, and tighten it, and then pull it to the back. Okay, and then you can go through several loops in the back here. Pull through, make a loop, and knot through. I didn't grab the whole thing. Hang on. There we go. Pull through, making a knot, and then I just go through a few more and go the back of several of these stitches to really get it in there. So that closes that one up, and then you can weave it in a few more times and trim your trim that piece. Okay, so however you want to do it. I'm just doing a little messy on here. Okay, so you weave in those tails, and then when it comes to these, I just kind of play with them like you're seeing me do that in the front, where I made sure that they're completely in there, and they look consistent with the other stitches. And I do those first, and I save this other tail for last, our beginning tail for last. So you're going to just take these and weave them in, and try and weave them in, matching your other loops here. Let's see. Yeah, so you can come down here and pull through. And I'm going to get this other one. And you can come through this back side here. And if you see my video on weaving in tails through garter stitches, I talk about smiles and frowns, or smiles and umbrellas. So you have this umbrella here, this gray piece. So I'm going to move around the gray with the gray, come down through this little smile area, and then all the way down to the bottom here through this, I'm going through these sage pieces here because that's where another dark gray is going to come around, and we'll make a little smile on the bottom part. and you're following that pattern. You can come up. I can give myself a little bit of tail here. There we go. And see how it just follows the pattern and it hides. So you're going to do that with this one and this one. And then I'm just, to save time, I'm just going to go this next piece. You can see how it's very long here. If you had a slip knot, you'd really have to really mess with it to try and get that knot to hide. You can follow your yarn around and see where the loose pieces are. So if I pull on this strand on this side, it's the tail. But if I pull it on this side, it tightens up this little piece here. So you can see it move. Okay, when I pull that piece and I kind of put my finger on it and pull, you can see it's going to make this stitch that's going like this, it's going to make that one smaller. Watch that. Look at that. And I can make it consistent, more consistent with these stitches here. So see how I can match it up? Now I've got that done. Now I'm going to make this part smaller. So I'm just going to pull on that one, right? And then I'm going to pull on the tail. Look at that. And see, it just closed it up. And so now we can just kind of close in this side here. Okay. And then I'm just going to find a spot over here. This is a little more subjective, trying to find where to go in. And there we go. And then I can come back to the front here and close in another place. There we go. So I just kind of find what gaps need to be closed to make it mimic the rest of the pattern. And then I'm good. And so once we weave in those longer tails, you trim it up and you have a nice little hexagon. Using it for many little things. You can make a you can make a whole bunch of these and then later on stitch them together for a patchwork blanket. So if you're wanting that kind of crochet look and have like little granny hexagons, this will be a really fun pattern. You could play with making stripes on the middle here. I haven't done that, but it might be really fun. So you've got a decrease round and a knit round where you could have one color on those 2 rounds and then switch it every 2 rounds. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Please be sure and comment down below and check out the written pattern. I love you guys. Thank you so much for sticking with me at GoodKnit Kisses. It's been a struggle the last couple of years. My mom had passed and some people were like, is Kristen still around? I am still around. If you missed my bundle, I have like this ultimate collection of Loom knit bundles, which has patterns from the last 5 and 6 years. Some of them are 7 and 8 years. So be sure and check out that Loom knit bundle. It is a huge collection of the last several years of just loom knitting patterns, and you can get a ton, a big bang for your buck. So check that down below. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us today, where we help you stitch your love and love your stitches. See you again soon.